Enlightenment? No thank you. An ayahuasca trip report by Ashitaka, posted at earwid.org August 25th, 2005. Setting: a circle of about 25 people with one shaman from Peru at a lodge in a forest with no sitters. Report: I was very scared when it was my turn to walk up to the shaman and receive the medicine. He poured half a cup of the thick brown molassy medicine into a small chalice. He reached it to me and said, "God bless you." The brew was traditional ayahuasca from Peru. Took me a while to drink. My heart was pounding the whole time. My subconscious knew that I was going to have some kind of intense experience, but I also knew that my spirit had called me to do this. I just had to do it. So, I finally downed it and was surprised that it was easy to stomach and that it did not taste as vile as I had anticipated. I sat back, leaned against my back jack, anxious, focusing on my breath and trying to relax and soothe myself to the best of my ability. I'm writing this 2 days after the experience. I was, or am, in a really good space in my life. So I said to myself, not to fear, my sweet. For some people, it's dragons. I'd heard stories of people being chased and eaten by dragons on the medicine. But for you, it is butterflies. I kept repeating this and started to believe it and became calmer. After half an hour, it had taken over. First, a familiar feeling, as on ecstasy, the expansion of my body and overall awareness, but then it rapidly became very intense. I knew soon that I would not be able to move, so I quickly went for one more pee break. When sitting on the toilet, I tried to calm down. This was familiar. The toilet, the peeing. But then, the white linoleum floor came alive. Liquid, rainbow light, spectacular moving patterns. I'd heard but never seen this before. And when I looked at my feet, they were my feet as a 4-year-old. I don't want to grow up, I said to myself as I touched them. I'd rather stay on the toilet and hide. I don't want to face reality. I don't want to face who I really am. I knew I needed to go back to my seat right away, or I would not be able to anymore. Oh, fuck. Here I am again. I'd been in this kind of realm, feeling, or state before, with a 1.5 capsule of MDMA and with DMT, each once. Except this was about 3 times more intense, and I knew it would last at least 4 hours, and only get more intense as the time went on. I hated this space, feeling so very much. Why did I bring myself here again? Profound fear, even slight terror began to surface. I will try to describe this fear, but this is the hardest part. There was no reason for fear. It was irrational. I was simply losing myself, losing control, losing the sense of reality that I'm familiar with. Now, this can be a fun thing to experience and explore, if you know it's a dream or an illusion. But the problem here is that life as I know it, and who I think I am, is the illusion. This was waking up to a deeper reality from the illusion, in which I am not separate from anything or anyone. I'd had this kind of experience before, but much less intense, and it was actually blissful. In fact, my intention for this journey had been to lose fear, open my heart, and be able to love myself and everything fully. Infinity was pouring into my being, and I was holding on with my thumbnails not to burst into a gazillion splinters and cease to exist. Part of me wanted to be able to move through this fear, as I had done rather quickly on the MDMA and DMT trips, transforming my fear into profound peace and love. Yet it was so intense, and I even surfaced the edge the whole time of holding on for my life. And when I felt a bit more at ease, I'd give into it a bit again, by closing my eyes, relaxing, and thinking of nothing, until the fear took over again. My face was making some incredible grimaces. Every grimace was the facial expression of a feeling or essence. Bashful, shameful, arrogant, angry, devilish, disgusted, ridiculous, ashamed, amphibian, etc. Or simply mentally ill and crazed. I was cross-eyed much of the time. My eyeballs were flying in all directions and my face was doing high-speed acrobatics. This was a way for my body to express all that I am. to release the intensity and to learn to love every part of myself. I was aware of every essence that came through, and I embraced it consciously. I was outside of judgment. Judgment was nearly impossible, because it was all me. Everybody in the room, every sound, everything that was said to me. And if there was something that I did not like so much, or someone, sound, situation in which I had a hard time seeing beauty, then I knew it was because I did not love that part of myself, and this reflection of myself was bringing that particular part of myself which I did not love to my attention. But once I looked at it, I saw and experienced its essence as being part of me, and saw the perfection and the beauty of that which to the illusioned eye would look ugly. This was a little practice that I kept up, and I challenged myself. It was easy and wonderful doing it, looking at beautiful people, hearing beautiful sounds, to experience this as part of myself. But could I stretch so far as to embrace all of me and love all of myself? When I say myself at this point in the journey, I'm experiencing my human self as a portal to the infinite self. Therefore, it includes me as a human, but goes beyond into the self which is all that is. And so, I pictured the most horrible actions that I could imagine, which I will spare you from here. And I searched my heart for compassion, empathy, understanding, and love for it, the beings involved, this part of me. I was able to empathize completely. I felt the terror and lostness these parts of myself were experiencing, how unconscious they were, how scared they were of who they were. In fact, I could empathize and comprehend experientially how much easier it is to kill someone else than to open up to who or what we really are, to our vastness, and lose our sense of existence as we know it. Even human death seemed less frightening to most of us, including me, than total self-realization. When we kill, we silence our fear of being alive. The more we are conscious, the more we are alive. We desire to kill that in the other, that we can relate to, because it is in us as well, but which we are at the same time not ready to own as ours, which we are not ready to wake up to. I understood intrinsically how absolutely everything around us is a mirror of ourself, and a teacher to bring light and consciousness to unconscious areas of ourselves. People popped into my mind who I've had or have difficulty with, who trigger anger in me, whom I feel have treated me unfairly, etc. And I immediately saw how these people were just playing out a part of me that I did not wish to be aware of, or who represent parts of me that I do not love about myself. I then looked at this part, feeling, and looked into whether I could love it, and it always could be traced back to being afraid and feeling lost and desperately seeking for connection and love. This, of course, brought up compassion, melting this aspect of myself into love, and thus, it was no longer ugly. Judgment was simply my incapacity to love myself. It felt like every negative judgment I had on anyone, no matter how subtle, was me slapping my own face. Yet, I experienced my utter innocence, because I, the infinite I, am only love, consciousness, expressing myself without being able to stop it. I simply just am. And I am learning and teaching, experiencing myself in every nanosecond with every single movement, who I am. In other words, God's self is becoming conscious of every part of God's self. It's all one big blob of existence, consciousness, learning, teaching, experiencing what it is. I know, this does not sound very poetic. I'm sorry. I saw the perfection in every part of my life that led me to come to this point of awareness, awakeness. But I realized with a vengeance that I did no longer want what I'd asked for in many prayers. That I may finally end to exist. That I may finally be at peace. That I could not go on playing this stupid game anymore. That I was tired of it all. To lose all fear and only feel love for everything at all times. As my intention was for the journey. But this would mean the death of my separation consciousness, aka enlightenment. No, I take it all back, I said to myself. I do not want to wake up, I just want to be okay. I want to just feel good. I'll get married, have 2 kids, a white picket fence and tend my garden. End of story. Let me go back to sleep. Please. This plea was to my soul, because I could sense the struggle between my soul and my human self. I've suffered phases of depression, some so heavy that I lay flat out on the floor for hours just praying for death to come and have mercy on me. I understood during my journey how the depression was my soul wanting to move on, but my human self being too afraid or not ready yet to grow up and wake up further. I knew that if I would settle for the white picket fence, refuse to wake up any further, that I would be haunted with depression again. Great. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, eh? All I want to be is okay. All I want is to feel fine. Many times during the journey, when the expansion would become too intense, I would ask myself to have compassion, that I was willing to learn and surrender. I had no choice. Resistance just creates more suffering. But that it was too intense for me, and my system was on the verge of panic or shutting down, and I pulled the brakes by watching my fellow travellers and diverting my attention outside. But this would not work for long. It was nauseating because there was so much going on inside me that was pulling all my attention back in. Several times the shaman came over me to blow a sacred liquid over my head and smoke into the top of my crown, which felt like a portal into the universe. He told me to breathe and focus on my breath, but to let anything in from the outside was extremely challenging, whether it was any kind of touch or communication, because of how deep I was inside myself and because of the intensity with which I experienced everything. I just want to be okay. Thus my mantra became, I don't want ecstasy anymore. Everything was too much. Experiencing myself as myself, even slivers of it, at this level, was so very, very intense. I understood the people who only eat bland foods. I wanted to become a black hole in which there was no rubbing of energies. I understood the path of Zen Buddhism, and it became the most attractive to me in that state. Years prior, I had spent some time in a Zen monastery and could not relate to the atmosphere being so dead. Black colours, silence, no creativity, no play, no dance, no strong emotions, just silence and nothingness. Back then, I had seen denial in it. During the journey, however, it seemed to me like an excellent choice. I hungered for peace and realised that I wanted to start to practice meditation. That would be my way of being okay. I never had a breakthrough from my fear, which later, after about 4 hours, turned into subtle, lingering, deep, disturbing emotional and physical discomfort in my gut, into peace. I could not fully surrender, because it seemed that if I did, that would be it. Merging, and I would never be the same. There would be no more me. Game over. A body, but who's there? Now, 2 days later, I'm feeling very good, and my insight into it is that I can go slowly now, transform fear and myself into love, and peel off the layers of illusion and wake up slow enough so I am not afraid, always with compassion. I know there is no way back. I cannot forget again. Once consciousness is attained, it cannot be lost. A baby cannot be unborn, and my soul will always want to keep growing. I will just ask it to have compassion now. I believe that growth can be smooth if I am willing to grow and pay attention to the subtleties. Then my hope is that butterflies can be bringers of the dawn instead of dragons. In deepest honour and respect of everyone who dares to remember who they are, and love to all my fellow seekers.